beloved members of the racing community who tragically passed away. Their legacy, etched in speed, will resonate far beyond the track. We remember them today.
In 2012, Fast and Loud kicked off as a garage-based show on Discovery Channel and quickly became a hit, drawing millions of viewers. Over time, several personalities helped shape what the show became. But as the years passed, the series eventually came to an end, and many familiar faces slowly stepped away from the spotlight. While some moved on quietly, others had stories that later took unexpected and tragic turns. But what really happened to them? Join us as we uncover 10 beloved Fast and Loud members who tragically passed away. Burt Reynolds.
We have breaking news. Hollywood icon Burt Reynolds has died at the age of 82, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Burt Reynolds, you'll remember, star of movies like Smokey and the Bandit, Deliverance, The Longest Yard.
Long before Fast and Loud ever featured his name, Burt Reynolds had already become one of the biggest stars in American entertainment. To millions of people, he was the face of Smokey and the Bandit, the actor whose black Pontiac Trans Am became almost as famous as he was. By the time Richard Rawlings and the Gas Monkey Garage crew set out to recreate the legendary Bandit car, Burt Reynolds was already a living legend. The project became one of the most memorable moments in Fast and Loud history, with Richard and Aaron Kaufman eventually meeting the actor and securing his signature on the finished vehicle. For fans of the show, it felt like two worlds colliding. Yet behind the fame, Burt Reynolds was secretly battling with something. The years leading up to the end of his life were not easy. Reynolds had endured multiple health problems, including serious heart issues that required surgery. He also struggled with chronic pain stemming from injuries suffered during decades of performing his own stunts. At various points, his health deteriorated so badly that rumors began circulating that he would never fully recover. Even so, he continued making public appearances and remained active in the entertainment industry. Those close to him often described him as a man who refused to let physical setbacks define him. But the damage to his body had been building for years. Then came the news that stunned Hollywood. On September 6, 2018, Burt Reynolds suffered a cardiac arrest at a hospital in Jupiter, Florida. Despite medical efforts to save him, he passed away at the age of 82. The announcement spread across the country within hours. Tributes poured in from actors, filmmakers, racing enthusiasts, and countless fans who had grown up watching his films. For many Fast and Loud fans, it was also the loss of the man whose involvement helped turn the Gas Monkey Bandit build into one of the show's most talked-about projects. Burt Reynolds may be gone, but the black Trans Am that made him famous still reminds people of the actor who brought the Bandit character to life. Sadly, Burt Reynolds was not the only Fast and Loud figure whose story took a tragic turn. The next person would leave behind even more mystery. Taylor Sims.
But in Dallas, Texas, on June 7th, 2019, which was 2 or 3 days ago, it was 2 days ago, it was Friday, we ended up losing a member of the car community that is, pretty deeply ingrained in Dallas. His name is Taylor Sims.
Few people connected to the Fast and Loud world were as highly respected in the Texas performance car scene as Taylor Sims. While he was not one of the mechanics regularly turning wrenches inside Gas Monkey Garage, he was a familiar face around the people and businesses that surrounded Richard Rawlings and the Dallas automotive community. Taylor built his reputation through Dallas Performance, a tuning shop that became known for pushing exotic cars to incredible levels of horsepower. Customers trusted him with Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and high-end performance builds because he had a reputation for getting results. Yet behind the success was a man who lived for speed, and it later led to a tragedy no one expected. Inside the performance world, Taylor was viewed as one of the rising names in Texas. Dallas Performance had earned national attention for building some of the fastest street-driven Lamborghinis in the country. His work appeared at racing events, automotive gatherings, and online videos watched by enthusiasts across the United States. The business continued to grow, and from the outside it looked as though everything was moving in the right direction. But sometimes the thing that helps build a reputation can also become the greatest danger. What happened next shocked people far beyond the automotive community. A summer drive in Texas turned into a nightmare. On July 7, 2019, Taylor Sims was driving a Lamborghini Gallardo near Plano when he reportedly lost control of the vehicle. The car left the roadway and crashed with devastating force. Emergency responders arrived at the scene, but the injuries were catastrophic. Taylor did not survive the accident. News of his death spread quickly through the performance car industry, with tributes coming from shop owners, racers, customers, and automotive personalities who had known him for years. Many struggled to believe that someone so closely associated with building powerful machines could be gone so suddenly. Christy Brimberry.
Couldn't get you and paid him.
You already paid him?
I did pay him.
How many monies?
$6,000.
Christy Brimberry was one of the quiet forces behind Gas Monkey Garage on Fast and Loud, working as the office manager who kept the business side from falling apart while the chaos of custom builds filled the workshop in Dallas, Texas. While Richard Rawlings and the crew were known for loud deals and fast timelines, Christy operated in the background, handling calls, managing logistics, and making sure the numbers matched the pressure of every build that rolled in. Her presence was not about spotlight moments, but about structure, and that made her one of the most important figures in the shop. Behind the scenes, her role often extended far beyond simple paperwork because the demands of Gas Monkey Garage required constant coordination between customers, suppliers, and the fast-moving build schedule that rarely slowed down. She became one of the key people holding things together in a fast-moving environment where deadlines and expectations were very tight. She helped make sure projects didn't fall apart because of money or administrative issues. While others focused on the cars, Christy focused on the systems behind them that made the work possible, a role that came with its own quiet responsibility. Her life shifted dramatically in 2016 when she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, a condition that forced her into immediate surgery and a long period of treatment that changed both her voice and her daily routine. The operation was successful in removing the cancer, but complications affected her vocal cords, leaving her with a noticeably different way of speaking and requiring time to recover strength. Christy Brimberry was last publicly seen around 2020 through occasional social media activity and fan updates. Since then, there have been speculations and rumors about her whereabouts, with some believing she may have passed away. However, there is no official report confirming this at this time. But Christy's story is not the only difficult one on this list. Wait until you hear what happened to the next person. Mike Koy.
This is Mike Koy. I'm a hot rod builder by trade. Been in the industry for 20 years now. Built a lot of high-end cars. So mainly a painter, do fab work, stuff like that.
Mike Koy was one of the quiet but highly skilled hands behind the scenes at Gas Monkey Garage on Fast and Loud, known for his work in paint and finishing where precision mattered more than noise. While Richard Rawlings and the main crew often took the spotlight, Mike operated in the space where a build either came alive or fell flat, shaping the final look of cars that had already been rebuilt from the ground up. His role was not about attention, but about execution, and that made him one of the most trusted figures in the shop's workflow. A closer look inside the paint bay revealed the kind of discipline Mike Koy brought into Gas Monkey Garage. Every surface that passed through his hands required careful correction, layering, and finishing that could not be rushed, even in a shop known for tight deadlines and fast turnaround projects. While engines roared and deals were made in the main garage, Mike worked in controlled silence, focusing on detail, texture, and consistency that would define how each car was finally presented to the world. One missed step in his process could undo weeks of mechanical work, which made his position both technical and critical. Behind the builds that made Fast and Loud popular, Mike Koy contributed to a long list of finished projects that carried the Gas Monkey name far beyond Dallas. He worked through the demanding rhythm of the shop, where multiple restorations ran at once, often shifting between projects that required different paint styles, finishes, and corrections. Within the crew, he was respected for consistency rather than personality. Then came a moment that changed everything for those who had worked alongside him. The news of Mike Koy's passing came in February 2021, when reports confirmed that he died following complications linked to illness, widely reported as related to COVID-19. He passed away in Texas, leaving behind colleagues and fans who remembered him for his craftsmanship rather than public appearances. Tom Smith.
Hello everybody, I'm Tom Smith, car expert and ASE certified master mechanic and former employee of Gas Monkey Garage until Richard fired me.
Few people brought as much energy to Fast and Loud as Tom Smith. With his booming voice, quick jokes, and larger-than-life personality, he quickly became one of the most recognizable faces at Gas Monkey Garage. Viewers never quite knew what he was going to say next, and that unpredictability became part of his appeal. While Richard Rawlings focused on deadlines and profits, Tom often seemed more interested in the adventure that came with every project. He could make even an ordinary shop day feel entertaining. Yet behind the laughter and television success, trouble was already beginning to build. Tension eventually found its way into the garage. Tom's approach to work often clashed with the direction Richard wanted the business to take. Arguments became more frequent, and the relationship between the two men steadily deteriorated. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 2014, Tom Smith and fellow Gas Monkey employee Jordan Butler were dismissed from the garage following an incident involving a customer's vehicle. For many fans, the news came as a complete shock. One of the show's most popular personalities was suddenly gone, but what happened next surprised even more people. Rather than disappear from television, Tom found a second chance. Alongside several former Gas Monkey employees, he joined Misfit Garage, a new series that premiered on Discovery Channel later that year. The show followed the crew as they attempted to build a successful business from the ground up, while competing in the same Texas automotive scene they had left behind. Many doubted they could succeed without the Gas Monkey name behind them. Yet season after season, Tom remained one of the biggest reasons viewers kept tuning in. Then came a health battle nobody expected. In 2020, Tom suffered a serious stroke during the night. The medical emergency affected his speech, forcing him into extensive rehabilitation. Recovery was slow and difficult, and rumors quickly began circulating online that he had. Even today, he is still not very visible in public. But Tom is not the only one people worry about. Another Fast and Loud member has also been linked to rumors about a tragic end. Let's find out who she is. Sue Martin.
Look at what we got here. Mustang, and look over here, it's Maserati. We're working on it right now. Look at it. Richard never bring me car like that. That's why I tell you, you always bring me the junk.
Among all the personalities who passed through Fast and Loud, few left an impression like Sue Martin. Known to fans simply as Sue, she was the upholstery expert Richard Rawlings and Aaron Kaufman turned to whenever a restoration needed an interior that matched the quality of the work done under the hood. Operating from her shop, ASM Auto Upholstery in Fort Worth, Texas, Sue became famous for her sharp wit, blunt honesty, and refusal to let anyone get away with cutting corners. Whenever she appeared on screen, viewers knew they were about to be entertained. Yet, there was much more to her story. than the quick exchanges seen on television. Behind the jokes and occasional arguments was a woman who had spent decades mastering a trade that very few people could do at her level. Born in Taiwan before eventually settling in the United States, Sue built her business from the ground up and earned a reputation throughout Texas for restoring classic car interiors. Richard often relied on her whenever a project needed something special. Whether it was custom stitching, vintage materials, or a complete redesign, Sue usually found a way to make it happen. But there is one thing many viewers have wondered about in recent years. Unlike several former Fast and Loud personalities who remained active on television, Sue gradually stepped away from the spotlight. Her appearances became less frequent, and many fans began asking what had happened to her. Rumors soon started circulating online. Some claimed she had retired. Others went much further, suggesting that health problems had forced her away from public life. A few even speculated that she may have passed away. However, none of those claims were supported by any official report. In fact, the last publicly available information indicates that Sue was still living a relatively private life with her husband while remaining connected to her upholstery business. Richard Rawlings.
With deadlines looming and projects piling up, it can feel like a lot to handle. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with BetterHelp. They connect you with the licensed therapists who really get it.
Few people are as closely connected to Fast and Loud as Richard Rawlings himself. Long before the show became one of Discovery Channel's biggest automotive hits, Richard had already built a reputation in Dallas, Texas, as a businessman who knew how to spot opportunities where others saw scrap metal. Gas Monkey Garage started as a small operation, but under his leadership, it grew into a brand recognized around the world. With his fast-talking personality, love for classic cars, and willingness to take risks, Richard became the face of the series. Yet, behind the success and television fame, there were moments when everything nearly came apart. The road to building Gas Monkey Garage was never smooth. Richard often found himself balancing enormous restoration costs, demanding deadlines, and the pressure that came with running a nationally televised business. Disagreements with employees became more common. Some friendships changed, and a few well-known members eventually left the garage. Then came another challenge that had nothing to do with cars. It was a personal battle that left many fans concerned about his future. What happened next sparked rumors that would continue for years. Health concerns began attracting attention after Richard revealed that he had undergone multiple medical procedures over the years. One of the most serious involved surgery related to a hernia, a condition that can become dangerous when internal tissue pushes through weakened muscle. Left untreated, severe cases can lead to significant pain and serious complications. Richard later spoke about the recovery process and the physical toll it took on him. Because he was no longer appearing on television as regularly as before, rumors quickly spread online. Some fans claimed he had become seriously ill, while others went much further and suggested he had passed away. Richard Rawlings remains very much part of the automotive world today. As fans tried to make sense of it all, another member's name began to surface under even more troubling circumstances. Stay tuned to find out. Kaufman.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Kaufman, and today we're here at Camberg Racing Products. Gonna see if we can learn a few things about a few things.
Long before Fast and Loud became one of Discovery Channel's biggest automotive shows, Aaron Kaufman was already building a reputation as one of the most talented fabricators in Texas. With his unmistakable beard, quiet personality, and remarkable ability to turn rusted wrecks into valuable machines, he quickly became a fan favorite. While Richard Rawlings handled the business side of Gas Monkey Garage, Aaron was often the man doing the technical work that brought ambitious projects to life. Together, they helped transform a small Dallas garage into a television phenomenon. But behind the success, Aaron was carrying frustrations that viewers only saw in brief moments. Pressure became a constant part of life inside Gas Monkey Garage. Bigger deadlines, larger projects, and the growing demands of television often placed Aaron in difficult situations. He repeatedly found himself trying to complete complex builds in unrealistic timeframes. The strain became increasingly visible as the years went by. Then came a decision that shocked longtime viewers. In 2017, Aaron announced that he was leaving Fast and Loud. For many fans, it felt impossible to imagine the show without him. But that departure was only the beginning of a much larger change. Freedom allowed Aaron to pursue projects on his own terms. He launched ArcLight Fabrication in Dallas and later starred in several automotive programs, including Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman. Unlike the frantic pace he often experienced at Gas Monkey Garage, these ventures allowed him to focus on the engineering and craftsmanship he enjoyed most. Yet, as his television appearances became less frequent, questions started emerging. Some fans began wondering where he had gone. Others started sharing theories that were far more alarming. Speculation about Aaron's whereabouts has continued to circulate in recent years, largely because he maintains a lower public profile than he once did during the height of Fast and Loud. Kevin Major Howard. Most Fast and Loud fans remember Kevin Major Howard for a very specific reason. He was not one of the mechanics inside Gas Monkey Garage, nor was he a regular member of Richard Rawlings' crew. Instead, he appeared as one of the notable personalities connected to the wider automotive and entertainment world that the show often crossed paths with. Long before that, however, Kevin had already built a remarkable career in Hollywood. Millions knew him as Rafterman from the 1987 war film Full Metal Jacket, a role that turned him into a recognizable face across generations. Yet acting was only part of his story. Away from movie sets, Kevin developed a deep passion for photography and charitable work. He became known in Los Angeles as one of the most respected headshot photographers in the entertainment industry, photographing actors, musicians, and public figures. Later, he founded Fueled by the Fallen, an organization that honored military personnel and first responders through specially built tribute race cars. It was the kind of project that reflected who he was away from the cameras. Everything appeared to be moving forward. Then something unexpected happened. Trouble began when serious health issues started affecting his life. Reports later revealed that Kevin had been battling respiratory problems, a condition involving the lungs and airways that can make breathing increasingly difficult. In severe cases, respiratory illnesses can require prolonged hospitalization and oxygen support. On February 14, 2025, Kevin Major Howard passed away in a Las Vegas hospital at the age of 69 after weeks of respiratory complications. Family members were by his side during his final moments. News of his death spread quickly throughout the entertainment community, prompting tributes from actors and many others. Yet, as tragic as Kevin's situation is, the next name brings even more confusion and speculation. Dennis Collins.
I told you what I paid for them, and I told you what I thought wholesale was.
All right.
And you agreed. But let's just see what you think.
Whoa! Look at that!
Dennis Collins was one of the familiar figures around Fast and Loud, known as a close friend of Richard Rawlings and a major source of rare vehicles for Gas Monkey Garage. His presence was never about drama or spotlight, but about access, knowledge, and long-standing connections in the American collector car world. Through his eye for rare Jeeps and classic builds, he became part of the wider ecosystem that kept the show supplied with projects that could turn profit and attention. Before television recognition, Dennis built Collins Brothers Jeep dealership in Texas, specializing in Jeep restorations and rare military and civilian models. He developed a reputation for tracking down vehicles others overlooked, often pulling them from barns, estates, and forgotten storage yards across the United States. His work was less about quick restoration and more about preservation and value building over time. Within Fast and Loud, Dennis appeared when Richard needed high-value inventory or expert opinion on rare finds. His exchanges with the crew often revolved around pricing, condition assessment, and whether a project was worth pursuing. While others focused on rebuilding inside the garage, Dennis represented the outside world of sourcing and valuation, where profit margins were decided before a wrench ever touched metal. Even outside the show, he continued operating within the collector car market, maintaining auctions and dealership activity, and remaining a recognizable name among Jeep enthusiasts and classic vehicle collectors. After Gas Monkey ended its run on television, he continued working within the same automotive network. Among these Fast and Loud members, who was your favorite on the show? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.